Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Friday, September the 23rd. And welcome to our commentary. By the way, this is not the last Friday of the month. There's one more next Friday. But I think you would agree with me that time is flying in 2022. Today, we're going to take a look at the Senate, do a little outlook of the U.S. Senate. There are 6 races that I'm going to look at that will probably determine who has the majority after November. But I want to begin. I want to begin with a story that caught my attention last night, and I have a post about this over at the American Thinker on Friday morning. You can read about it at the American Thinker, or I always post these things over at my blog and also over at my Facebook page. And in this particular story, this comes out of the U.S. Air Force Academy. This is where we train future Air Force officers. And they're called cadets. The young men and women who are at that school are called cadets. This is one of the elite, top military schools in the world. And something came out. Apparently, the woke have taken over the academy, and they have instituted a new approach to speaking the language. Let me just kind of briefly tell you what it is. I'm going to be reading, so bear with me. Quote, a diversity and inclusion training by the U.S. Air Force in Colorado instructs the cadets to use words that include all genders and to refrain from saying things like mom and dad. Mom and dad are now, I guess you're not forbidden to say them, but you're encouraged not to say mom and dad. I guess that violates some diversity principle, whatever that may be. Look, this is crazy. This is just crazy. In fact, my American Thinker article, the title of the article is Every Democrat Should Answer the Mom and Dad Question. This topic should be brought to the attention of any Democrat running for office this year. Any Democrat running for office, the Congress, the Senate, Beto O'Rourke here in Texas, any Democrat, your state representative, any Democrat that you come across should answer this question. Okay, what do you think of this? What do you think of this policy over at the U.S. Air Force Academy to eliminate and to speak, I guess, in gender neutral terms, whatever that is, and discourage cadets not to say mom and dad? I mean, that is so crazy. And in my post, the very last part of the post, I say that our enemies have to be looking at stuff like this and asking themselves the question, what are they doing over at the United States? I think a lot of us are asking the same question, frankly. I mean, these are cadets. These are people being trained to lead the Air Force in the event that we have a war or for whatever reason. These are officers and cadets. These young men and women are going to be running the Air Force in the future. But I guess now they're going to have to be woke. They're going to have to be woke. That's the new requirement. Everybody has to be woke. It's not just Hollywood or Disney. Now it's the U.S. Air Force. Some people have asked me, is this what liberals do? And I say, no, these are not liberals. Liberals were people like Hubert Humphrey, even George McGovern, people like that. Michael Dukakis was a liberal. Those were liberals. Those were people who we had a political difference with, but they didn't buy into this crap. What we are seeing here is this crazy left-wing gender policies, and this is not liberal. This is radical left. That's what this is, radical left. And these people, their objective is to destroy our society. That's what their objective is. They want to destroy our society. And the way you do it, of course, is by changing the language and breaking up the family and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know what to say other than that. I mean, this is just absolutely amazing. U.S. Air Force Academy. So I think we should ask President Biden the next time that he takes a question that may not be for a long time after the 60 Minutes interview, but the next time he has a reporter in front of him, the reporter should say, Mr. President, by the way, you as president and commander in chief, what do you think of the U.S. Air Force Academy doing this? Do you agree with this? They should ask him that. They should ask the vice president that question. They should ask every member of the Senate and the House that question. And yes, here in Texas, in some of our state races, if you happen to run into Beto O'Rourke or one of his campaign stops, raise your hand and say, hey, Mr. O'Rourke, what do you think of the U.S. Air Force Academy coming up with these rules? It's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. And again, hear what I'm saying. This is not liberalism. Liberalism is more about economics and politics. That's not what this is about. This is about changing your society, disrupting, destroying your society. That's what this is about. And I tell you, I don't know what to tell you, but I just got a note from somebody saying, I read that ridiculous. Thank you, Sally. I agree with you. And another lady from a Barbara saying, it cannot be real. Well, Barbara, I'm sorry, it is real. This is happening now. One thing that the president of the United States could do, he could very easily order the Department of Defense and say, shut this down, shut this darn thing down. He can do that. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen with this president. But what an amazing, what amazing state of affairs for Air Force Academy to be telling its young cadets, these are good, talented young people who go there, that they shouldn't be using terms like mom and dad. So what are you supposed to call your mom or your dad? What are you supposed to call them? Now, look, part of the argument from the academy is that not everybody had a mom and dad. I guess biologically we all do, or at least the last time I checked, because everything is changing so crazy now. But the last time I checked, everybody had a biological mom and dad. Not everybody, and this is true, not everybody has the good fortune that I had of having a great mom and dad. Not everybody does. And I know that I'm very lucky in that sense. But my goodness, what are you going to call them? Mom and dad? What are you going to call them? Supporting people? I mean, people who file my tax returns? I mean, what are you going to call these people other than mom and dad? This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And I think most people agree with me on this. I guarantee you that most people agree with me on this. Before we take a look at the Senate and my thoughts about the 6 races that I believe in the majority, I want to say that I think what Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott and Governor Ducey of Arizona, let's not forget him because he's also doing it. What these 3 guys are doing does not solve the problem. I agree with that. But it has certainly accomplished what 6 months had not been accomplished before, which is to put this issue on the front page, to put this issue at the very top of the headline. So in that respect, I think the 3 have done a tremendous job because we're talking about it. The whole country's talking about it. And that was the objective of doing this. So they can no longer refuse to cover the border because the border is coming to them. The border problem has come to them. And look, a lot of people ask me, well, wait a minute, you came to the U.S. as an immigrant. And I said, yes, I did. I came here from Cuba when I was a youngster. But we came in an orderly fashion. I am not opposed to asylum. I am not opposed to immigrants. Immigrants have done great things for the United States, but it has to be done in an orderly way. And bringing in 4 million people, now apparently it's 2 is official, but they say as many as 4. Bringing in 4 million people in such a short span of time is simply unacceptable. We don't have the resources to handle something of magnitude. For example, what are these guys going to do? What are these people going to do? Now, apparently they're going to be in the United States waiting for their court case. Okay, I understand that. So what are they going to do in the interim? Can they work? I don't think so. If they get sick, where are they going to go for a hospital? I guess the kids can be put in schools. That's probably a little easier thing to do, but it's still going to cost money. And many of them don't speak English, which means you have to have, bilingual programs or stuff like that. But I think the school part is probably the easiest part. But the work part is a real problem, especially at a time when we're hearing from the Fed that interest rates are going up and a recession is coming. And for those of you who remember recessions in the past, that usually means unemployment goes up. So I don't know. This is crazy what this White House is doing. But at least Governors Abbott, DeSantis, and Ducey have put this on the front page in a very effective way, I think. And they should be commended for that. Let's take a look at the U.S. Senate. We will do a more complete view or look at the U.S. Senate with our friend Barry Castleman, probably in a couple of weeks in the middle of October. This is one of Barry Castleman's specialties. He looks at the U.S. Senate. So we'll take a look at the U.S. Senate with him. We'll do a special podcast in the middle of October. But let me give you my sense of where we are. And we're still a month, maybe 6 weeks away. There are 6 that I've selected: Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. These are the 6. I think that's 6. Yeah, these are the 6 that I've selected. Pennsylvania is the one that I was most worried about, but I think that's changing. That's changing, and one of the big reasons it's changing is because the Democrat running, Mr. Fetterman, is in very bad shape. I mean, health-wise, and he shouldn't even be running. I don't even know how his family doesn't step in and say, come on, John, you need to take time off. He had a stroke a few months ago, and if you watch him, it's sad to see him. He's in no shape to run a campaign. I'm not saying he's not going to make a comeback. We all hope he does. I like to see him make a comeback, a purely humanitarian basis. But right now, he shouldn't be, in his situation, just getting over a stroke, recovering from a stroke, and in a very stressful campaign. He shouldn't be doing that. His family should stop it. And the Democrat Party should stop it. But if you look at that race, that was supposed to be the one the Republicans were going to lose, but it's not happening that way. It's not happening that way at all. The Republican candidate, Dr. Oz, is closing the gap and closing it quite well. And I think that if there is a Republican turnout, the kind of turnout that I expect, I do expect Dr. Oz to win that race, meaning that the Republicans would retain that seat. That's very important, to retain that seat. The second one is New Hampshire, where the Republicans nominated a military man to be their candidate. He's not the strongest candidate in town, I'll tell you that right now. But the Democrat senator in that state is not a very, very popular lady. I believe that is, again, if there is a heavy Republican turnout, that seat could flip from Democrat to Republican. The Democrat who is currently the senator was elected there the last time by 1,000 votes. So she's not exactly the most popular senator. And having all these other problems in the country with the Biden presidency, that I think could flip. In fact, I will tell you today, I think it's going to flip. Georgia, where I think Herschel Walker is starting to build a lead. Then you go to Arizona. That's going to be a tough one. But once again, you're seeing Senator Kelly leading by a couple of points. And if there is a Republican turnout, like I think there will be, I think that could easily flip as well. Then you go to Nevada, and this one's looking great. Former, I think, governor of Nevada or attorney general of Nevada, Mr. Nexalt. I think that's his name, Nexalt. His father, by the way, used to be a famous senator from that state. At one time, he was considered by Ronald Reagan to be vice president before he took George Bush. But this is a case where I believe the Republicans will win. And then, of course, Wisconsin, where the Republicans will hold. So the Republicans will hold Pennsylvania. They will hold Wisconsin. They will pick up Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, and New Hampshire. I believe that's how it's going to shake out, with the Republicans having 2 or 3 extra votes in the majority. You know, they may lose one of these. I'm not 100% sure. I think, again, Pennsylvania could be tough. But I believe that they will pick up enough here to have a majority. And a majority in the Senate is essential, because if you win the House, but you don't win the Senate, you're not really gaining as much. If you win the Senate, then you can shut down, particularly the judges. You could shut that down very, very quickly. So I'm predicting September 23rd that the Republicans will win the Senate. It'll be like 52-48, something like that. Maybe 53-47. And the reason that I'm predicting this is because of the fact that if you have a wave, you can pretty much you can take all the polls and throw them in the garbage, because the one thing that polls cannot do is measure intensity. That's the one thing they cannot do. So if you have a huge Republican turnout, like I believe we will have, then I think these seats will happen for the Republicans, and the Republicans will pick up the Senate. Again, it's all based on a huge Republican turnout. So if you live in any of these states, get out and vote, because you're the one who can make it happen. A couple of say in history before we run out of time. Ray Charles, the great singer, was born on this day in 1930. He passed away in 2004. By the way, he passed away on the same day that Ronald Reagan passed away. Some of you may remember that. Ronald Reagan and Ray Charles died on the same day back in 2004. Ray Charles was a great performer, a great entertainer. I'm not sure if I have a favorite song, but I do like that one, "Hit the Road Jack." I think that was a pretty good number. And on this day, 1957, Henry Aaron hit a home run that put the Milwaukee Braves. You probably have not heard that name in a long time. The Milwaukee Braves. That's what they used to be before they went to Atlanta. The Milwaukee Braves won the National League pennant on this day in 1957 when Henry Aaron hit a home run in the bottom of the inning. Look, Aaron hit many big home runs in his amazing career, but this one was probably one of the biggest. You know, he hit number 755, number 714, 715, all of those hit over the years. But this one put the Milwaukee Braves in the World Series. So if you know anybody from that era, you know, if you have a grandfather still around or an old neighbor who remembers the Milwaukee Braves in 1957, I'm sure he'll remember the night that Henry Aaron hit the home run and put the Milwaukee Braves in the World Series. They went on to win the World Series that year. They beat the Yankees in 7 games, and then they came back the next year in 1958, but the Yankees beat the Braves in 1958. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas.